Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. Thank you, wherever you are, however your day may be going, for joining me here today. We are in chapter number 7. Chapter number 8. I guess we're moving faster than I thought. Chapter number 8. America succeeds from the empire. Now I'm going to tell you right now, this is a little bit longer chapter. Just to be aware of that, there's not as much reading, I don't believe, this week, but this is a longer lecture, and this is going to be a longer chapter. This is our chapter about the Revolutionary War. So there is going to be more questions than normal this week. There's a lot of stuff that you really need to know here. Just letting you know that right away. Last time we talked about Lexington and Concord. The British are chased back to Boston. So what happens now? How many Minutemen swarmed around Boston? The Americans, the Minutemen, they swarmed, they chased the British from Lexington and Concord back to Boston, and then they encamp around the city. And over 20,000 Minutemen came and encamped overlooking Boston. Now, what is a Minuteman? A Minuteman is someone who said they could show up ready to fight. Individual in the militia, they're in the local towns, said they could ready to show up to fight in a minute. They would ring the bells, and these people were supposedly be able to jump out of their house, grab their musket sitting by the door, and race into the town green and ready to go in 1 minute. Okay? We understand it's a bit of exaggeration, but they said they're a Minutemen. Okay? What was the single most important act of the Second Continental Congress? It was very simply to select George Washington, who was already in uniform, headed on his way up there, as the leader of the American Army. Washington was probably one of the most experienced, if not the most experienced, commanders in the Americas. However, his largest command had only been 1,200 men, and had been 20 years earlier. Furthermore, he was not actually a very great, he was not a tremendous military leader back then. As we'll see in World War II, he was not a tremendous military leader. In the Revolutionary War, he was not a tremendous military leader in the Revolutionary War. However, he did have some characters that made him, as what we consider, the father of our country. Okay? And this is question number 3. What Washington's greatest quality was not being a great military leader. He was what? He was a moral force. Okay? He was a symbol and a rallying point. He showed patience, courage, self-discipline, justice. And furthermore, at the end of the war, he didn't take the army and make himself king. This is vital. Napoleon, most conquerors, most people, they win the victory, the people appoint them king, and they rapidly make themselves king and take away the freedoms that they had just fought for. He did not do that. That was his greatest accomplishment. Not winning the war, but after winning the war, giving it away to someone else. Not making himself the leader and the king. They surrounded Boston. One other note here. The textbook says that as a man of wealth, both by inheritance and by marriage, Washington could not be accused of being a fortune seeker. As an aristocrat, he could be counted on by his peers to check the excesses of the masses. Once again, the people of our early government and our early constitution and our early revolution and our early figures in our early founding were very worried about the masses, or They did not want a democratic government. They greatly feared that. They did not want people who did not have a stake in society trying to gain a stake in society like that in that manner. They wanted only your people who had been profitable, industrious, hardworking individuals to have a stake in voting in society. The tempo of warfare gradually increased. Ethan Allen and Benedict Arnold in question number 4, captured the gunpowder and artillery from Fort Ticonderoga. They took that gunpowder and those cannon then and put them above in Breed and Bunker Hill, overlooking the city of Boston. Now the British are trapped in the city of Boston with cannon and artillery and 20,000 men overlooking the hill overlooking them. The British decided they've got to fight. So, with 3,000 redcoats, they marched up the mountain, or up the hill. Okay? Sharpshooting Americans, of which our textbook says there's 1,500, were waiting for them, dug, entrenched. It's a famous story. The redcoats lined up and marched while they got mowed down. Once, twice. The third time, they reached the top of the hill. Now, the Americans had been following, the colonists had been following a very simple a rule. Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. They did not have much gunpowder muscles. They were waiting until they could not miss. And the British, standing in an exact military line, were easy targets. The revolutionaries, colonists, the Americans, they're hiding in trenches. It was not, and behind rocks and fences, etc. They were a hard target for the British to hit. Conversely, the British were a very easy target. The losses, after the third march, the Americans eventually ran out of ammunition. They killed so many men. They eventually ran out of ammunition. They were throwing rocks at the advancing soldiers, and they eventually scattered and ran under the threat of the bayonets bearing down and charging at them. As one or two people said, I believe a famous statement goes, a couple more British victories like that, and there will be no more British troops in America. That's how costly of a battle it was. Very likely more men died. British soldiers died than colonial troops were there at the battle. In July 1775, we go to the Olive Branch Petition. They reached out. They reached out to the king. They offered the Olive Branch Petition, professing American loyalty to the crown and begging the king to prevent further hostilities. Okay? They're saying, we are loyal to you, king. We are not loyal to Parliament, who is trying to and do these taxations. We're only asking for our rights to be treated fairly. The king rejected that and formally proclaimed the colonies a rebellion. Skirmishes were now out treason and a hanging crime. And he began to hire a large number of German troops. Because most of these soldiers for hire came from Germany, came from the German Principality of Hesse. Thus, they were called Hessians. This upset the Americans greatly. Why did the king hire foreign mercenaries who were known for butchery and bring them in? They did not. They did not. This did not endear himself to the American public. Next question is common sense. What is common sense? Common Sense was a pamphlet published by Thomas Paine, a radical revolutionary. Thomas Paine really made one or two contributions to America, but later on we're going to find his radicalism, and he was an individual who he himself did not contribute greatly to the revolution and to the Americans. His pamphlet did. Excuse me. And in it he championed a republican form of government. He said, why nowhere in the physical universe did the smaller heavenly body control the larger one. He said that he argued that a republic was better than a democracy, and that the government of England is nearly as monarchical as France or Spain due to the power of the crown. Republicanism especially appealed to British politicians who were critical of the excess power of the king. Once again, you do not hear the word democracy here. You hear the word republicanism. If you look through the textbook, you are not going to find democracy, the concept of democracy, promoted here. You only find the concept of a republic, where power flowed from the people themselves, not from a corrupt or monarch. Okay? Question number 8. What did people view as critical to any successful Republican government? They considered citizen virtue. It was believed that as long as the citizens were virtuous, you could have a Republican system of government. When you did not have virtuous citizens, they did not believe that a representative government could exist. And this is why they always were determined to check the excess of the masses, or the non-virtuous in parts of society. They greatly argued against allowing the non-virtuous parts of society to have a say in a vote. This tradition is still held in our system today, whereas in many states, or most states, I know some have recently maybe changed some of this, but they did not allow felons to vote. People who have committed a felony, a violent crime, or a serious crime, okay, they are not allowed to vote. They have lost their privilege to vote based on their actions, and most Americans back then would have highly agreed with that, and they would be highly opposed to this idea of allowing those who've proven a lack of virtue to have a say in the government. Not all patriots agreed with Thomas Paine. He tended to have a little more ultra-democratic approach to republicanism. Like I said, he after the American Revolution went off, I guess you call it, went off the deep end and became involved with very radical elements, and eventually found himself in France as a favorite and not a favorite, etc. In the French Revolution and the Reign of Terror, and was involved. We'll just leave it at that. But not necessarily leading it, obviously. He wasn't leading it. But he himself, like I said, he wrote some other stuff, and his other stuff was stuff that was greatly condemned in America, including by George Washington. But this pamphlet he wrote was very powerful. Some in America favored a republic ruled by a natural aristocracy of talent. Okay, what was a natural aristocracy? It is not a heretical aristocracy, but one of merit. Basically, the individuals with the most talent would rise through society, and they would rule, not because they were the sons of a king or sons of a lord or it's because of their talent and abilities, and they view this aristocracy or this republic. These people should be the individuals that were elected and serve as the republic form of government because of their talents and their meritocracy. One of the major proponents of this idea is Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was a tremendous believer in the idea of meritocracy, or a aristocratic form of government, a natural aristocratic form of government. And we see this concept still today, rejected and approved by various political parties. You will see the Republicans often refer back to this idea of that you can rise through a meritocratic system. Okay, work hard, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, type of mentality. Okay, and the Democrats often disagree with that. They want to have a more democratic style of government versus a republic style of government, where the common or the masses have more say. They do not view that people the idea of a meritocracy. That they dislike that terminology. So that is a conflict that is still ongoing today, and it's different shades of the same idea. Although today we have gone way far in a different direction than our founders originally intended. Our founders originally did not intend for everyone, near as many people to have a vote as they did today. And I'm referring now specifically to white people. I'm not talking about slavery or anything of that nature. I'm talking about they did not view. There's a great many people today that would have a vote, such as if you were 19 or 20 today, you have a vote, and they would not have been. They would have been highly opposed to that in our early founding. In fact, often you were not allowed to vote until you were a married individual. Some individuals, you were not allowed to live by yourself until you were married in some states. There's cases of individuals being ordered by their town to either move back in with their family or something. Living by yourself as a male, you had to be part of a family structure. That was in Massachusetts, especially. But this idea, the more conservative Republicans, as it says here, feared that the fervor for liberty would overwhelm the stability of the social order. They were scared of anarchy. They watched with trepidation, I'm reading out a textbook here, as the lower orders of society, poor farmers, tenants, and laboring classes in towns and cities, seemed to embrace a kind of runaway republicanism that amounted to a radical leveling. Okay? if you have no money, and you have no business, and you have no house, then you're happy to vote for something that takes away from everyone else because you have nothing to lose. That's when we say conservatism. They're individuals in this case. They feel like they had something to lose. They do not want just wild excesses of liberty in the sense that people can just take from others. They did not want redistribution of the wealth. All right. Continuing on to, you'll see number 10. Number 10, and it says, please. I want you to read the Declaration of Independence. Now, I gave you a edition of the textbook that was very cheap, and some of you may found it in one form or another because it can come in two different forms. And they can come in 2 separate volumes or in 1 complete volume. Mine actually came in 1 complete volume. But in the back of your textbook, it makes there's the Declaration of Independence, and I'm asking you to read it. It's on the merit or the honor system, and I would like for you to write that you read it. And then the following question is, if possible, give the sentence about the Supreme Judge in the Declaration, and also give the sentence about divine providence. Okay. Here I'm asking you, if you've never read the Declaration of Independence, I'm asking you to read the entirety of the Declaration of Independence in a college class, okay? I know this is a longer question, etc., but this is college. We ought to be able to read the entire Declaration of Independence once in our life if we're going to be American citizens. I ask you on the following question, number 11, to make note of 2 specific statements in there. In the conclusion here, it says, we therefore, the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress, appealing. Okay? They're saying, it's like they're presenting their case in a court of law. We, the plaintiffs, we, the representatives of the United States of America, we, the plaintiffs, appeal to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions. They said, they appealed to who they believed was a higher authority than the king. They appealed to God. Now remember, these are all Protestant Christians. The Supreme Judge is not meaning Allah. It's not meaning Buddha. It's not meaning Amun-Ra, the Egyptian god. Okay? No. This is specifically referring, okay, not to other gods. It's specifically referring to our Christian God in heaven, Jesus, the God the Father, okay, the Trinity. It's specifically referring to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions. They were asking, as a plaintiff in a court of law, we are appealing to the Judge of the world to recognize our intentions, okay, and do in the name and authority of the good people of these colonies, okay, judge us as should be judged, okay? And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance, and I skipped down a couple lines there, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Remember, Thomas Jefferson wrote this, just in case you were wondering who was the main writer here. Our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. That's what they pledged. But who did they pledge it and protect? Who's going to protect them of that? Look, right above it. With a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, they appealed to the Supreme Judge and asked for protection from divine providence. You cannot separate Christianity and the United States of America. In our founding document, they appealed for divine protection and to the Supreme Judge of the world. You cannot separate the two. There is no Marxist doctrine in that. Okay? There is no postmodern views in that. Alright? They specifically are Judeo-Christian moral values presented, saying we believe firmly in a Judeo-Christian God that rules the world, and we are asking Him, as a judge, we are asking Him for His divine protection in our endeavors and His blessing. Okay? Now, I am going to ask some version of that question on the test, and you will note that I will put a note in the questions here to specify how I'm going to want that. But I'm going to want on the test, and here's how I'll ask it on the test, and I'll try to put it in exact way in the test prep you'll have. Who did the colonists appeal to in the Declaration of Independence? And the answer is the supreme judge of the universe, and they appealed, and what did they appeal for? Divine protection. Okay? I'm going to say that one more time in case you didn't get what I'm saying like 7 times already. Said it before. Our colonists, our founders, in the founding document of our nation, appealed for divine protection and appealed to the judge of the universe. Clearly, we had a Christian founding from our onset of our nation. Once again, Christianity and our history, our nation's history, are inescapably and intrinsically tied together. You cannot separate them. Alright, now that I've got done ranting, I'll continue on to my next question. Who were the Loyalists? The Loyalists were the group of people who are loyal to the king. They did not believe that we should separate. They did for either moral or political reasons or economic reasons, for various reasons. And a number of good men and good people were Loyalists. A noted individual that's not mentioned in this textbook who did not believe that there was biblical justification for this rebellion was John Wesley. We will talk a lot about John Wesley a little bit later in the class. But one of the reasons that he did not personally come over and start the American church was that his political views were different than a lot of the colonists. And this is an important thing to remember. You can disagree with someone politically and have the same theological belief and go to church with them. That's something I'm just going to say one more time because I know a bunch of you got a lot of convicted in your heart right there. You can disagree with somebody politically, but still go to church and worship with them. Alright? Richard Henry Lee moved that these colonies ought to be a free and independent states. Subsequently, Thomas Jefferson wrote it. It was formally approved on July 4th, the Declaration of Independence, on July 4th, 1776. Somebody said, their textbook says, it ought to be described as Mr. Jefferson's advertisement of Mr. Lee's resolution. Number 13. What percentage of the American people were Loyalists? The percentage of American people that were Loyalists is somewhere around 16%. Around 16% of the nation remained loyal to the king. Okay? Including a well-known son of Benjamin Franklin. William Franklin actually was the last royal governor of New Jersey. So that is very interesting there as well. Who said, "Give me liberty or give me death"? That was Patrick Henry. He said that in front of the Virginia Assembly a few years actually before the Revolution erupted. The next question, describe the events of the Battle of Trenton and Princeton briefly. Okay, we're going to get to that in 1 second, but you got to understand the context of what happened here. I'm going to go ahead and pause here this video, and then we'll start a second video here. There's going to be 3 videos in this lecture series for this week, and so I'm going to break them up here a little bit for you. We're about halfway through the chapter. I'm going to go ahead and finish the chapter, and then there's going to be a special little discussion on an individual named Robert Morris, who is going to be there. You're going to have to be able to answer a question about him on the test, and that's going to be that we're going to have. And Robert Morris, we'll talk more about him, but he will be. The question about him will only be in the lectures. It will not be in the textbook. But he's a very extremely important individual. I'll get to later. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day.